What is going on, Soccer Card Fiends? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on why I don't prospect that much nowadays in the soccer market. Whenever I originally got into soccer cards and whenever I got into cards in general, I did do a good bit of prospecting. That's kind of what I enjoyed, and that's what was fun for me at the time. But over time, as I was in here longer and really started to learn about other markets and other sectors of other markets, I realize it's probably not the best way to go about it. It is an option, and you're not wrong if you choose to do that. However, I don't think that it is best for me going forward, and in this video, I wanted to talk about why. So to start, we obviously have to address the elephant in the room, that is that we're all buying pictures of players on a card. So inherently, you have to care about the picture of the player on the card. If you just see it as a number sign, if you just see it as dollar sign that you're going to turn into more profit, that's very dangerous because it doesn't really give you much perspective on what sort of value that card holds to you in your heart of hearts and what it holds to other people. You might be able to get a price gauge based on eBay comps, but you won't actually know how much people truly enjoy it and truly love that card or that player. And so if I'm valuing cards the way that you should value them, which is how much do you actually want that card? How much do other people truly want that card for what it is? If the market's gone tomorrow, do you truly want it? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And so in cards, I've been leaning more and more that way, where I am trying to buy things that I truly want to keep within my possession for a long time, and I'd be perfectly happy if they did fall, or if they continue to go up, I still would be happy to even keep them, depending on what sort of prices we're talking about, where the rest of the market's at. So you have to look at it from that perspective of, one, do you actually care for the card? And then two, obviously there are finances that are to be worried about, and you have to then go on and compare the modern day players to older players, and you have to sort of think about that. So for me, if modern players were cheap, then maybe I would be more about it. You know, if they were discounted compared to the legends of the game, then I would say, okay, well, maybe it's worth the risk. But with modern cards, it's not worth the risk if we're talking about holding a card long term. I've always said this, that if I had to take a basket approach to the soccer card market, or many prospecting markets in general, to the prospects, you'd be in such a losing proposition. It would be absurd, because for some perspective on it, say for example you had to go buy the 10 best young guys in the market right now and you had to hold them for 5 to 10 years. Out of the 10, you'll be lucky if 1, maybe 2 do really, really well and maintain good value and go up in price. Because currently, whenever you look at the market, I did this in the last video, but Pedri autos are the same price as Messi Monday Chromo rookies. And what that tells me, and they're very similar in terms of how many are on eBay. So it's about the same supply, and Pedri autos are the same as Messi rookie cards. Now, of course, it's an auto, but we're talking about Messi and someone that could only hope in his wildest dreams to be Messi, and they are priced similarly. So if that's the case, long term, how do I see that? I see Messi being absurdly undervalued relative to the new young stars. Now, does that mean that Messi's are going to go up in price? I don't know. But I also can't tell you if Pedri's are going to go up in price, because, you know, a lot has to happen for that to be able to work out that way. With younger guys, you're always going to be fighting 2 different battles at the same time. The first one is going to be that the market has to go up. If the market goes down, no matter how good your player's doing, they're probably not going to go up. We can see that in the NBA market right now. The NBA market went down over the last year, or at least during this last gaming season. And during that same time, Ja Morant's been killing it. And his prices, they've gone up a little bit, but barely. And is it worth that small percent increase when he's done as good as he has, and there's all the risk built into that card that there is? That's not a very good return at all. So Ja Morant's a very good example of what can go wrong whenever a market is going down and a player's actually doing somewhat well. And once the Ja Morant hype cools off, he's probably going to go down like everyone else has, and you're not going to have an asset that's really done all too much. Now, on the opposite side of that coin, not only does the market have to do somewhat well, but the player also has to do well. The player has to continue to perform, because if Ja Morant didn't do anything this season, maybe he got injured and the market goes south, that card could go down 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even more % overall. And to be able to recoup losses like that in the card market, it's very, very difficult. I know over the last couple of years, prices have soared and everything went up, and we all feel like we're very, very smart people. But at the end of the day, when you have that risk on a card that can go down 20, 30, 40, 50%, you then need to go have another card that can go up 40, 50, 100%. And that's pretty hard to do in the market nowadays compared to, months and years prior. A lot of bigger time people within these spaces of collectibles and just markets in general, they'll tell you that one of the things that you should focus on the most is how much money can you lose on an investment. This is always something I've heard from Broody, aka Alpha Investments, the Magic the Gathering weirdo. I love him. But he always talks about how much can you lose, because that's really what should matter in a market like this where it's so unpredictable. You want to have that upside that's there, but you also want to have somewhat of a floor to your assets that you have, if you consider them assets, if you consider them collectibles, and by all means, whatever you want to do. But there is a price that is set on these items, and if you have an item that can go from 1,000 to 0, that's very bad. Obviously, that's a lot of risk. That's a lot of worry that you're going to have to do. That's a lot more focus that you're going to have to put on the market, all that type of stuff. And that brings me into my next point about prospecting that I don't enjoy as much. The example I used in this video already was Pedri versus Messi. And with a Messi card, it's much simpler. Basically, all I have to do is I have to understand that Messi's basically the best player of all time, at least top 5, no matter what you think. And all I have to do then is learn about his card market. And once I know the Messi card market, I have knowledge on what will be a valuable piece of the soccer card segment for years, decades, and maybe even longer to come. Of course, I'll want to compare him to other greats, but if you're going to be involved in the soccer hobby for a long time, you should always sort of be looking at those greats and where they're sitting and what sort of pieces they have that you could go after as well. So with Messi, it's as simple as I understand his market, I understand some other legends, and I think they're a decent buy. I'll grab this one that I like. And then from there, you can basically just shove it in your collection, sit on it as long as you want. And of course, you can ride the market, you can see where the market goes, and you can buy and sell it as you please. But really, all you have to do is just sit on it. You go on eBay, you find one you like, you get a good price, and you sit. And it's that simple. Now, if you're investing in Pedri, there's a lot more you have to do. You have to go back and look at sort of the prices of legends, because if you don't understand the prices of legends, how can you know if your modern day players over or undervalued? You'd have no clue. And I feel like a lot of people don't even do that. But if you do that, that is some extra work you're going to have to do. So you're going to have to find out a bunch of older players. Then you're also going to have to come back and look at the modern market. You're going to have to compare Pedri with tons of different players that are coming up and players that are even, maybe a step behind that might show up one day. Then you have to figure out all of the new players markets and sort of what cards they have available, how many sets there are, what cards you want to go after, what sets are good. You have to sort of speculate on what sets are going to be useful in the future. How much do people value autos versus patches versus this, that, and the other? There's so many different questions that then appear in that regard as well. And then from there, you have to keep up on the news, the day-to-day of what's going on with this player. You have to watch the games to understand if they're actually that good, if they're going to be involved going forward, if they're maybe getting a transfer, something like that. And then you have to follow their market and you have to learn about that individual player's market. And so basically you're spending not only the time that you need to do to learn about the older cards, but you're then going to also have to learn about the newer cards, the newer sets, the newer players, the players that are even going to be newer than that coming up in the future. You're going to have to pay attention to all these different things. You're going to have to really, really focus on the modern market because the modern market moves much more drastically than the older market. And so basically you're going to have to invest so much more time and effort on these younger guys, and you don't have the backfall that you do with some of the older guys where at least there's some sort of floor. With the newer guys, their floor is 0. It can go all the way down to being worthless to anyone. So at the moment, from my perspective on these prospects, you are paying top dollar in the sense that they are worth what a lot of legends are worth. You're going to have to then focus a lot of your time and energy into their market, their cards, and not only that, even newer markets and newer cards, and all of this time you're spending learning these new guys, in 10 years, most all of them will be irrelevant in the card market. And so you'll spend 5 to 10 years following a market that at some point will have very few, if any, notable stars that you're really going to care about and knowledge that you can use further. Say if I spent the next 10 years learning about the cards from 2020 to 2030, there's going to be so many more cards, so many new sets, so many new players, and in 10 to 20 years, 5 to 10 are probably going to be hobby relevant to the point at which they matter. When during that same 10-year time frame, I could go back and basically learn a lot of what there is to learn about the prior 100 years of soccer cards and the bulk of soccer cards and stickers that are going to matter for a long time going forward if the hobby truly has legs. So yes, it can be viable to prospect on these younger guys. You may be able to make some money here or there, but you do have to realize a lot of people, they tell you about their wins, they tell you about the flips they had, but they don't tell you about the boatload of cards that they're sitting on that are now somewhat worthless or worth a lot less than they were, that they're not willing to sell, and even if they do sell, they're going to sell at a loss and they're not going to enjoy that because they don't want to talk about that. That's like whenever people go gambling and whenever they go do scratch offs or go to the casino, you're going to hear about their wins because they want you to hear about that. They want you to feel as if they are doing something good, but they're not going to tell you about the losses. They're not going to tell you about the time that they put into it endlessly that took away from other aspects of their life. They're not going to explain that because it's not sexy. It's not a show-off appeal for them. They get nothing out of that, so why would they tell you that? But it truly does exist, and to act like it doesn't is blasphemy. So a couple ways I like to look at it is, first, if I thought the stock market was a great play, if I thought that there was just going to be a great economy going forward where a lot of money was going to be put into it, potentially, would I go after penny stocks? Would I go after stocks that are very low valued right now that haven't shown a long track record of anything in hopes of making money? Probably not. I would go for the blue chips of blue chips because if I believe in it, then I know that those are going to have the lowest floor, and long term, if I truly believe in it, I think it does well, then they're going to have good returns in theory. And so I'm not going to take a risk within a risky market when I could go with a somewhat stable thing within a risky market that I feel much safer and much better about. Another aspect of cards that people don't talk about enough is that graphs really don't matter as much as people think they do. If they did matter, then 2014 Prism, Messi, and Ronaldo's PSA 10 that were worth 3,000 a year and a half ago, why would they be worth 200 now? Like, if graphs matter, they should be at least worth 1,000. They should have gone down and back up, right? But no one wants them. Same thing can happen to the young guys of the now era. That can certainly happen. Whenever you look at a card, you have to ask yourself, do I like the card? Do I like the player? Do I like the prospect of this long term? If you can't say you like the card and you like the card far into the future, then you're inherently making a somewhat risky play. And a lot of people are making really risky plays on the ultramodern segment. Obviously, this is a USMNT cards channel, so I do make somewhat risky plays with the USMNT, but that goes back to what I was talking about originally, which is when I look at USMNT cards, I like the card. I like those players. I like the prospect of the USMNT to come for the next 5, 10, 15 plus years. So it's somewhat of a different realm. When it comes to European prospects that are very unproven and just getting started, when I look at the card, I don't like the card. And honestly, a lot of the cards made in the last year or two, I don't like the sets. I don't like the cards because there's too many and there's too many different variables and there's too much risk involved for me to say, yes, I want to hop on in. And that is just a word of caution to people. I recently had a Twitter discussion with someone that was really, really adamant that I was going about cards the wrong way in a sense, that I wasn't optimizing my money to the fullest. And this is sort of a rebuttal to that, but in reality, it's just sort of my perspective on the market and what I would like to share with a lot of different people that may be making certain risky decisions that might not need to be made. I know a lot of people feel like they're behind in life to an extent for some reason, even though if you're young, you have so much time and so much ability to grow your collection and yourself as a person, your business, and all of that, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of time. So don't take the risky decision. Don't throw all of your money onto red and hope that you hit. Just make smart decisions, evaluate the market, and just sit back and realize you have time and take it easy. Just look around, make calculated decisions, and enjoy yourself. And really, that's all you can do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe, and would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the video down below. And also, if you like prospecting or how you see it or how you go about it, I would love to hear. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.